Hello, and welcome to this edition of RentReady with Stephensons, where we discuss the general application, operating procedures, and safe handling of our tools and equipment. Today, we are going to spotlight the natural gas and propane Radiant HeatPro. The HeatPro is exclusive to Stephensons. It was designed by the Stephensons Climate Control Division in conjunction with our manufacturing partner. It's manufactured right here in Canada. It is 25 to 50% more efficient than any other radiant or convection heater in the Canadian market. Let's take a look at how the HeatPro operates and what the applications are. So unlike a forced air unit, which just heats the air, a radiant heater is designed to heat surfaces. So unlike its competitors, the HeatPro was designed with a proprietary cone on the top of the heater. This is not only going to reflect outwards, it's going to reflect down, heating more surface area. Once that surface area is heated, it's going to provide infrared radiation outwards, much the same way as the sun's rays. This is going to warm people and objects in that environment, which then emits even more radiated heat outwards. The applications for this heater are residential low-rise, small commercial, and even some high-rise applications. It's primarily going to be used for the curing of concrete, paint, mud and drywall, as well as providing a comfortable atmosphere for your workers on site. Let's take a look at some of the other benefits of using the HeatPro heater. First, it's not going to stir up any dust, unlike a forced air unit. It has a very quiet operation. It's portable. It can be moved around the job site quite easily. Does not require any electricity, which means it'll continue to function during a power outage. This unit is approved to be suspended, so if you're pouring a concrete floor, you can have it elevated and out of the way. It does have a built-in tilt sensor, so if it does tilt, it does shut off. It also does not create any cold spots in the working area. Let's take a look at the operational and safety procedures that we need to follow to operate one of our HeatPro heaters. Most importantly, you are required to have a propane or natural gas record of training. For the HeatPro heater, you're going to require an under 400,000 BTU ROT. This ROT is available through Stephensons. If you go on to our stephensons.ca website and click on training, you can register yourself in a class now. So now that we've been trained and it's time to set up our heater, let's take a look at the procedures. The first thing we're going to do is make sure that we've got it away from any combustibles. We need 32 inches of clearance from the top of the heater, 42 inches from any side. It's zero clearance on the bottom of the heater, which means it can be placed on a combustible floor. Next, we need to make sure that we've got adequate ventilation for the heater. We require a 2 foot by 2 foot square opening to bring fresh air in from outside, and it must be located in the vicinity of the heater. If we're working in a basement that has smaller windows, we may be required to open more than one window. Next, we need to open a window at the uppermost level of the job site to allow any carbon dioxide to escape. If you do notice the heater starting to create a yellow flame or any black carbon, you know that you've got an inadequate oxygen supply. Next, you're going to want to make sure that the hose that you've got running from your fuel supply source and connected to your heater is protected against any damage. You do not want to cut that hose. Lastly, every heater is going to require its own 10-pound fire extinguisher with an ABC rating within 50 feet. If you're running multiple heaters in a house, make sure that you've got an extinguisher available for each heater. In just a minute, I'm going to show you how to fire up the HeatPro unit. First, we need to determine the accessories we're going to need depending on whether or not we're using the natural gas or propane version of the heater. So if we're using the natural gas version, we're going to need either a double or a single manifold. The single manifold if we're using a single heater, the double manifold if we're using two heaters. If you are only using one heater, you cannot use the double manifold. Next, the hose. You'll notice the natural gas hose is going to have a much larger opening for the connection to the heater, and it's going to have a simple on and off valve. You will not find any regulator on the hose. That's how you know it's a natural gas hose. If we're going to be running propane, we're going to notice we've got a regulator on the hose. This is going to connect directly to your 100-pound or 420-pound bottle. In the wintertime when it gets cold, you're going to want to pigtail those bottles to make sure you get a consistent BTU. In that case, we're going to be using a 2-way or a 3-way pigtail. Now let's move on to the heater. Today I'm going to be showing you how to hook up the propane version of the HeatPro. First, we need to make sure we've got the proper PPE. I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt to protect against possible propane burns, some propane approved gloves, and a pair of safety eyewear. Next, we can go ahead and connect our regulator to our propane bottle. That's going to be either our 100 or our 420-pound bottle. Make sure that the vent on the regulator is always clear. Next, we need to purge the line, which means fill it with propane. We're going to do this while we're still outside. We want to open the valve, and we want to open the valve to our propane bottle. Then, while the nozzle's pointing away from you, we want to use a plastic pen and depress the ball on the inside of the hose. We want to hold this down for roughly 60 seconds to make sure that the line is fully purged. Once the line is purged, we can go ahead and turn the fuel supply off at the end of the hose. We're now ready to connect that to the heater. So I'm going to go ahead and pull back on the collar and connect that to the heater. Next, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open the valve while the heater's still in the off position, and I'm going to go ahead and perform a leak test on the propane lines. We're going to do this by spraying a soap and water solution where it connects to the bottle and where it connects to the heater. And we're looking for any possible leaks in the form of bubbles. Now that we've got our hose connected, let's go ahead and ignite the heater. So we're going to want to make sure that we've got the fuel supply turned on. Then check and make sure that the thermostat is set to the lowest position. We can then press and hold in our pilot light. We can hit the igniter, which will ignite the pilot. You will be able to see a faint blue pilot light on the inside of the manifold. In the event that you're having issues with the igniter, you can go ahead and use a barbecue lighter in the port on the side of the manifold. After 45 seconds, we can go ahead and release the pilot and turn it to the run position. Now we can light the main manifold by turning our head away until you hear it fire on. We want to do this to make sure that it doesn't flash at us. In order to turn the heater off, we want to make sure that we go to the fuel source and turn the bottle off. Then we can come back and disconnect the hose and turn our controls off. Thanks for joining us for today's episode of RentReady with Stephensons. You're now ready to rent one of our propane or natural gas HeatPros. But remember, before you start any job, make sure you stop, think, and then act.